So the big question is this: how do most agents who struggle to get the information that most successful agents hoard to themselves grow and prosper without this information? That's the big question, and this video cast is the answer. Welcome to Real Estate Rockstars. I'm your host, Pat Hyben. And now for the review of the day. Okay, so now I got one from SP Ward. SP Ward gives it 4 stars. SP Ward says, there are a lot of podcasts for real estate professionals and several seem to contradict each other. That's interesting. Overall, a pretty good mixture of information and tips mixed in with human interest stories and background. Great to listen to while driving around or hanging around the house. Thank you, SP Ward. Appreciate it. Keep the comments coming, guys. I love them. And remember, I eat feedback for breakfast, so give me a 1-star review if you want, or a 5-star review if you want. I don't care. And the more reviews we get, the better guests we get. So please, subscribe first, and then leave us a review or wherever you're listening. Okay, Rockstar Nation, I have a great guest today. Someone who got licensed the same year I did, right? 1987. And she's been crushing it in Wildwood, Missouri, a suburb of St. Louis, ever since. And is the top Caldwell banker agent in Missouri, and she is cranking it out. And we're going to get into some really, really solid stuff today. So I'm excited about this episode. So without further ado, Colleen, welcome to Real Estate Rockstars.
Hi, thanks for having me this morning.
Hey, Colleen, why don't you tell your the Rockstar Nation here a little bit about yourself so they can get to know you?
Well, as you said, I've been in the business about 31 years. I was 12 years old when I started. And I have worked, I'm unusual, I think, for a lot of agents in that I have been with the same company that entire time and have just put my nose to the grindstone and worked and worked. But about 12 years ago, the number one agent at Coldwell Banker was getting ready to retire and was thinking about just closing her doors. And through a lot of interesting circumstances, I ended up taking over and transitioning into her business. Now it's not unusual to hear about succession planning, but at that time we were really making it up as we went along.
Well, I want to find out what you learned from that. I also want to find out what makes you so loyal, because of course the agent community is notorious for switching companies a lot. And so we're going to dig deep into that. I'd like to hear that from your perspective. And but first, let's get to some nitty gritty. So like, how many houses have you sold in the last 12 months?
About 197 so far.
Oh, so far. Okay. I mean, so far this year, and right now we're at the end of October. So you're going to do 200 plus?
That's always the plan. That's kind of my bar.
Okay. Like good bar. And so what was your, as we like to call it, ECI, your ego commission income on over the last 12 months, would you say?
Probably about 1.2 million.
Okay, beautiful. And what's your net profit on that?
It ends up being right around 780.
That's pretty good, right? Because 800,000, so about a third. So you're at like 65% or something.
That's right. In my dreams, I would love to be at a 25% on cost, but I don't think you can do it right. I don't think you can get the right people.
You can't sell 200 houses. I mean, I shouldn't say you can't, but yeah. You might be able to do that with 100 or 60 or something. But
right.
So well, let's talk about that. So great percentage, 78%, actually crazy. And that's off the top, right? So you're, no. What do we say? 65%. So that's off the top. So, how do you sell 200 houses? Is it just you? Do you have a team? What's describe this here?
So I have a team. When I took this business over, there were a lot of people that were straight commission on the team, but I also took it over full-fledged in 2008, and we know what was happening in 2008. And I learned really quickly that some of those positions really needed to be tied to production. So I switched people over to flat fee, got rid of a lot of salaried folks, and kind of streamlined the business that way. So at this point, I have a closing manager who gets $2,000 a month, just so I know she can make a house payment, and then she gets a flat fee of probably $400 per closing. That keeps her incented to make sure those properties get to the closing table. I do have a salaried listing manager, and Caroline really is kind of my girl Friday. I can throw anything at her all day long, and she will do it. Many years ago, I heard from an agent, there are two different kinds of folks on your teams, farm animals and jungle animals. Jungle animals go out and kill what they eat, so they're in sales. And then the farm animals are the folks that show up every day, and as long as you're feeding them, they show up and do their jobs. So she really takes care of everything that just needs to get done day in and day out. She especially has grown really good at working social media and all of our advertising platforms. I have a listing manager that takes a small percentage of every listing sold, and she's my mini-me, because especially in the spring, I cannot go to 5 listing appointments in a day and do a very good job. So we'll kind of divide and conquer. Then she does follow up with agents, gives feedback. We'll sit down and I'll target which properties she needs to talk to about maybe adjusting price or condition every week. And then I have 2 buyer agents who, of course, take a little bit off of, or I take a little bit off of their sales. Everybody I've ever seen coaching teams says never pay a buyer's agent more than 50% of the commission. I pay more than that. I pay about 60 to 65%, but I have 2 excellent agents that nail down somewhere between $15 and $20 million a year. They work like soldiers. And when they bring me listings off of buyers that maybe have come off of an inquiry from Zillow or whatever, they don't take any part of that listing. So I feel like that compensation is really fair. At 50%, I would get average buyer agents, and I want superhuman buyer agents.
You want buyer agents gonna close the deal. So essentially, it's sort of like you getting a really fat referral fee if you were to refer it out,
Exactly.
a 35% referral fee, but you have nothing to do with it, and you know that solidly that they're taking care of it and they're going to get it closed and done, and you don't got to worry about it. So you don't worry about them. And at the same time, you don't feel, I sense you don't feel beholden to them, like where you need to provide more leads to them. You need to, be training them. You know what I mean? Like you have that sense about you that you have a you have a small, very tight, strong team. And
right.
And your job on the team is listings, right? I mean, that's all
right.
you're doing is going on listing appointments, listing houses.
Mm-hmm. And maybe, and I always say, if a problem gets to me, it's really a problem. So, because everybody's pretty much able to keep everything on track along the way. And it really, especially with the buyer's agent, comes down to this. Time is money. And when I don't have to invest a moment in training, in qualifying a buyer, and putting somebody into my car and driving them around, but I'm making money off of those actions, then I'm just not going to be greedy, and it's working really well for this team.
Here's the thing. I mean, we've kind of gotten away from that, and it worked so well. It really did, where you had a specialist where, you are a specialist in listing. That's what you're great at. Any lead that comes in, they know, here, give this to Colleen, and I'm not going to get anything from it, or I'm not going to do it myself. She does that, but at the same time, there's reciprocity. If Colleen gets a buyer, she's going to give it to me, right? And that's my specialty. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of teams have gotten away from that, where they're letting agents do buyers and listings and vice versa. And I'm not saying one way is right or one way is wrong, but certainly the way you have it has a very high profit margin, and seems like is probably less stress for you, because you're just going out like the jungle animal, right? And killing it. Like you said, 5 listing appointments a day is doable for you.
Mm-hmm. It really is. And again, the buyer agents that I'm lucky enough to have on my team, and interestingly, they're both men, which is a little different, I think, because ladies are very intuitive, but these 2 guys, among other things, hate listings and they love buyers. So that works well.
That is different. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And in my mind these days, I'm more confident referring complete strangers to 2 guys rather than some cute 20-something young lady meeting somebody she doesn't. So
that's hilarious. So well, here's the thing. Rightfully so, listings are scary business. You really got to know your shit to do a listing appointment if you're competing against other people, right? Or if they're going to have a close ratio as good or better than Colleen's, which you've probably, after 30 some years, have set a very high bar. Like, chances are, when someone calls you on a listing appointment in your area, you're going to have sold a couple of houses on the street itself or in the neighborhood itself, or you're going to know, oh, I know your next door neighbor, this such and such, and oh, I know the president of your homeowners association, right? I mean, you're going to be so much more powerful, right, than them on listing appointments.
I'm to the point now where I've walked in cold to the same house that I've sold 2 times previous in the last 30 years.
With different people, yeah.
With different people that didn't know I had the listing when they bought it, or the people before that bought it.
Yeah, you've like, oh, I've sold this house twice before, but we've never met. I'm glad you called me.
Exactly.
Did you know that this used to be, a pottery room or a wine cellar or
I love what you've done with the place. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, so let's talk about so where did outside of SOI, because obviously we're going to have the typical cliches when it comes to being in the business 31 years. You're going to get a ton of leads from SOI referrals. So outside of that, are you aggressively doing anything to get more leads?
Well, I do advertise and work really heavily on Zillow and Trulia. And that truthfully comes down and is probably the best place for leads, because I find myself maybe generating 3 to 5 inquiries in an average week. And if they're real buyers or sellers, we're converting them, I would say probably 80% of the time at best. Aside from that, every time I try and look more toward the web as a place to generate leads, and I pull back a little bit from direct mail, I see that really impacts my business. So I still do snail mail that's very targeted, as much as 10 to 30,000 pieces at least 4 times a year into very targeted neighborhoods. And it's not unusual for me to walk into a house, and it may be a house where somebody's going into a nursing home and their kids came in from out of town, and there's like 3 of my postcards on a magnet on the refrigerator, and that's why they called me. So that direct mail that's very targeted to the neighborhoods where I know there's good turn and neighborhoods with good demand, over time, whenever I think, oh, snail mail's getting old, whenever I pull back from it, I go right back to it.
Amazing read for agents who want to blow their business up. 6 Steps to 7 Figures was an amazing read. Pat breaks it down into simple, actionable steps that, if taken, will almost guarantee 7-figure success in the real estate sales business. Couldn't recommend this enough. Wow, thank you for the awesome Amazon review, Garo215. Now, do you want to get your hands on this book for free and blow your business up? Here's how. Go to free6stepsbook.com. That's free, S-I-X, stepsbook.com right now. Or simply text the word PAT to 444-999. That's text PAT to 444-999 and I'll send you a free book. Wow. Okay. A couple of things here that I made note of I want to ask you. Okay. So first of all, take me to Trulia. A lot of people, of course, Zillow, Realtor, those are the typical ones. Trulia is tending to be the Snapchat of the industry, the MySpace, where it's starting to get less and less attention. Why do you choose to put money into Trulia? Talk to me about that.
Well, I would say that since Zillow and Trulia are kind of in the same hat, when I do get a Trulia lead, I'm not even sure it's coming from the little bit of money I'm spending there versus really out of everything that I'm doing with Zillow, because I try to have a pretty decent presence on Zillow, and it still amazes me every day.
Do you pay but you pay Trulia separately, right?
Yeah, but it's very minor, a couple of $100 just to be there.
So you don't so you're just, okay. So it's really a Zillow thing is what you're
right.
doing.
It is. Okay. But and then, but on Zillow, every week I got people calling me thinking I'm the listing agent on properties, and then we just take them and run.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how you target. Like, so it's only 4 times a year, which is a lot less than a lot of people would tell you to do. But it's extremely effective. And for some reason, people save these postcards. Like, what are you doing in these postcards that make them so save worthy?
Well, so I just had a meeting with my team yesterday because I'm getting ready to really pound. I'll probably put out 2 or 3 pieces between now and January, looking forward to next year's listings. And so one of those will probably be something that has a testimonial or 2 on it. Another piece will probably be for that neighborhood. I'll just run, these are the homes that have sold in your neighborhood in the last 12 months, and I'll list each address and the sale price. People kind of like to hold on to that. I'm not a fan of recipes. I think
so it's more like a market analysis kind of?
Yeah, it's just a straight line. I'll run, if there's been 8 sales, I'll list every sale and the sale price and just say, here's the market activity in your neighborhood. Call me if you want to know. Everything has to have a call to action on it. In addition to that, I do still snail mail my SOI, which probably runs north of about 6,000 people at this time. Those are just local. And we do probably 4 events a year that will direct mail off of those as well.
So what do you, let's talk about that.
So for Thanksgiving,
you send them?
Yeah. For Thanksgiving, we double tag them and we send out an Evite and a postcard, but we're giving away pies the week before Thanksgiving and they have to RSVP. That Evite went out on Friday, and yesterday I think we had 50 RSVPs, and every one of them was like, hi, how are you? I'm so glad you're still doing this. And when they come to pick those up, we have wine, we have hors d'oeuvres, and people will end up, they'll drive 15 miles to pick up a darn pie and stay and chat for a half hour. So it's kind of an exhausting day, but it's a really good touch. And I can usually attribute, that's it, Thanksgiving, and I can usually attribute, 8 or 10 sides off of that meet and greet. So in the, we just had an air show here. And so we used our parking lot as a place to watch the air show because we're real close to the airport. And we had hot dogs, and I brought some wine, and we probably had about 200 people at that because it was a little chilly and cloudy. But that was good, and I already have 2 listing leads from that. We do a movie usually sometime when the weather's not great, either January, February, maybe into March, and we run out a movie theater. So all of those are, I'm kind of drifting back toward SOI, but that touch is great. For the direct mail pieces, I like the list of houses in their neighborhood that we can throw out to those neighborhoods. And of course, we disclaim that we're not saying we sold every one of them in small type at the bottom, but it certainly gives an impression that we at the very least know what's going on in their neighborhood. And testimonials are amazing. I am surprised still every time I go on a listing call at how many people have really dug deep into me. They know that my testimonials, they know I like to fish. They know I went to Spain they know more about
How do they
me
know
than
all
I
that
do
stuff?
sometimes, because they're on my website. They're on, I think they probably go to my Facebook page.
Pictures of you fishing?
Yeah.
You put pictures of you fishing on your postcards?
No, but I have it on, I have it in various places, I guess, on the web. And I walk in and I was in a listing call last week and the lady said, I was selling her dad's house. He was right there. My postcard was on the wall, but she was talking about how her dad's a fly fisherman and she knows I love to fly fish. So
there you go.
There
you go. But people stalk you nowadays, you know what I mean?
They
And it's
do.
okay. You know what I mean?
They
It's
really
okay.
do.
You want them to because that person bonded with you before you even met them.
They really do know a lot about me. And frankly, sometimes I think, should I make my persona be a little bit of everything to all people, or should I just be me and attract the people that like what they see? And that's kind of where I go.
And it's not like people are going to dislike you because you fish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. So I think you can be
just be me. And then well, and maybe you're attracting people that you're going to be more in tune with and enjoy working with more.
Right.
And
I think I'm not a fisherman. I mean, I have fished. But I might like you more because you're authentic. You know, just the fact that you like fishing, right? I mean, like it's like, okay, well, you know, she has a life, right?
Yeah. But it is odd that I walk in and this lady's talking about how she knows her dad and I have this affinity for fish, and I have no idea where she found that, but she knew it as a fact.
It's true. And I think it's a great thing. So let's talk about the retirement thing with the other agent, how you inherited the business. Most particularly, I want to talk about the lessons you learned in case people listening are, have aspirations to do this. Maybe you could give them some advice. So first of all, tell me how this happened and what sort of business this woman was, or man, or whoever it was doing, that sort of thing.
So Kathy Irvin, hence the team I run is called the Irvine team. And I'll circle back around to why it's still called that. But Kathy,
that was her name. Her name was Kathy Irvine.
Yeah. So she was probably the #1 agent in Missouri a year or two. She was consistently #1 for Coldwell Banker, which at that time probably had 1,200 agents. So she was really a powerhouse. She and I both worked in the same office. Since she was there, she was always #1 and I was always #2 or 3. And I just slogged along, doing without a team or anything, probably about $7-8 million a year.
So you were a workhorse. You sold her listings a lot. She was always taking the spotlight. Now, what year was it that she decided to retire?
In about 2006, she had some health issues and started thinking about that. I'll be frank and say that she and I did not know each other very well because we were both we weren't standing around the coffee pot every day. We were both just out there working hard. But at one point, she had somebody who was kind of her go-to team person that had health issues. She had health issues, and she just was about ready to say, I am done. My broker, a very smart woman by the name of Carol Malina, wasn't going to have any of that. And so she came to me and was rather Machiavellian, I guess. She said, Colleen, can you just help Kathy while Linda's out for a little bit and just see if you can't get her through this. So I worked with her just to kind of help her with, if she's carrying 50 listings and she's doing it all by herself and she's not 100%. So I just worked with her, kept my business going. And naturally, within probably 60 days, she said, you know, you and I should probably talk. We kept working together. I rolled my business into hers, but we had nothing formal going on. And she, about 6 months later, walked into my office, threw a file down on my desk and said, okay, let's do this. So we went and both of us lawyered up and put together a plan that we ascribed a dollar amount her business was worth. I started running the entire show, and she took a percentage of the business until we met that. It probably took me about 2 years longer than I thought it would, because that was when the market absolutely crashed.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's,
you know,
so wait a minute.
and
So let me slow this down a little bit. So she had cancer or something, right? She
had heart issues and had like quintuple bypass surgery.
So she was quitting, clearly,
Yes.
right? She's like, I quit.
Yeah.
You in, out, or you in or you out. And then you're like, okay, I'm in. And so first of all, the first question that comes to mind, which a lot of people ask is, you know, what multiple of her EBITDA, so what multiple of her net profit did you use to determine what her business is worth?
Gosh.
Roughly.
I'm thinking we looked at what her year's business was, and at that time we doubled that.
So 2x. Yeah.
Yeah. And then said, okay, let's take commissions and split them. I carried expenses and took the majority of commissions. She took about 25% of each commission, and we kept a running book until we met that goal. And
okay.
had the market stayed as it was, probably would have been about a 2-year transition, maybe 3. But if the market had stayed as it was and growth had continued as it had the, say, 2 or 3 years prior. But instead, the market probably went down to about 60% of the prior year's volume.
Oh, yeah.
And then gradually came back. So it took us probably about 5 years to wrap that up. But it still worked, and we both paid our bills.
But here's the thing, right? It might have been good for her because it stretched her money out.
Yeah.
Tax-wise too, it probably benefited. So I'm gonna just slow this down a little bit so people understand this clearly. So basically, what they took her net profit from her team, which included her working, right? I mean, like this included her working. So they took her out, net profit, and times the times 2, right? Times the net times 2, and then took 25% off the top of any deal that came from the business until it reached that amount, till it reached the 2x amount that determined. And then it didn't take 2 years as it would have normally taken. It took 5 years because the market tanked. Okay, cool. So what did you do to ensure, right, that her business was, you know, still coming in, that people knew, you know, that she didn't, I mean, you have to create an illusion that she really didn't quit, right? That she's involved, and that you're, you know, running things now, which rightly or wrongly is the way you have to do it when you do this. I mean, Johnny Cochran did this before he died with Cochran Law Firm 15 years ago, and they still run ads called the Cochran Firm. People think he's alive again. So tell me what you did, you know?
So, and like I said, now there's a lot, there's a lot of coaching, and there's a lot out there about how to do that transition. We just kind of felt our way through. So one of our biggest concerns certainly was, if Kathy wasn't there, was that going to result in a loss of business? Would this just flatten out and disappear? What was going to happen with that? What we both found, and we found very quickly, is that people just want their house sold, and they don't accept. I would say in the first year, she didn't just completely walk away. She said to me, I will do anything you want me to do. I'm just not going on any more appointments. I don't want to talk to buyers. I don't want to talk to sellers. And that's fine. She really enjoyed doing, like, creating the postcards and doing that sort of work along the way. Maybe in the first year, I had to dust her off and take her on 2 listing appointments where, as I termed it, they really needed to see the Kathy. And so she came along, even though she was like, I haven't looked at a market analysis. I don't know nothing, but I'll come along.
Just sit here and smile, Kathy.
So I brought the Kathy with me a couple of times. We really did have a big concern about that, and it really was not well founded. If you're doing a good job and that house is getting sold, that is everybody. I felt like it was more of our ego thing than it had anything to do with.
Well, here's another thing that helped. I mean, it helped that you're a super great agent, a solid agent, right? I mean, if it would have been a brand new agent, you know, or someone who wasn't the caliber, it's a whole nother story, because their biggest fear is that, oh no, I'm going to get someone less than Kathy. I'm not going to get the Irvine team, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. And so it's all about proving that fear wrong.
Sure. And she did have a team at that time. And I would say within 2 years, I had made some changes to that team. But as we did that original transition, there was a marketing manager and there was a closing manager that some of those folks were already familiar with. So there were some other bodies in the space that people were comfortable with and knew. I would say that we as people were very different. The thing we had in common and still have in common is that we both just work hard. We're obsessed with working hard. And so we had that in common, but Kathy is very much a ready, fire, aim person. She just is a doer, and let's figure it out after we do it. I come from a family of engineers and accountants, and I'm much more analytical. So as we worked together in that transition in the first year, I learned to not be paralyzed by analysis more, just go do it a little more. And she learned that, gee, like maybe we should look at our ROI before we throw all that money at something. And we really learned a lot from each other, but it was really dumb luck. She had over the couple of years prior to that, probably a half a dozen agents talked to her about taking over her business if and when that time came. But each one of them really came to her with, okay, this is how I want to do it. And when she and I talked, I was like, okay, you built this machine. What do you want from this? And I really looked at it from what do you want rather than what I thought I needed. And maybe she got a little bit better of the end of the deal. But I ended up with this fabulous business that still must. Yeah,
I don't know about that, by the way, because even though it was 10, 11 years ago, even the deals being done today, and trust me, they've been on my show, are at about 2.5 times the earnings, and so 2 times earnings spread out over 5 years is in line with what people are selling their teams for today. So I think I don't think she necessarily got the better half. I think you both got a great deal, and the fact that you were able to pay it in referral fees helped you, because otherwise the market would have tanked, and then all of a sudden you would have had this debt instantly that you would be beholden to, and so any other way would have been bad for you. So that worked out good for you. Interest free, you were able to pay off this debt for 5 years.
Yeah.
I want you to think about the word toolbox. What is a toolbox? A toolbox is a box full of tools that you use to build something great. At Real Estate Rockstars, we've created our own free toolbox. So everybody that comes on the show as a guest brings a tool with them, and we plow them all into this toolbox, then we give it away for our viewing audience to basically use as they wish. Everything we put in there is an actionable item that can be downloaded, can be printed, can be used immediately. And we got things like scripts and dialogues, checklists for teams, checklists to keep agents accountable, referral forms that are filled out at settlement to get referrals by your buyers and sellers. Everything you can think of that you could use on a regular basis about real estate is included in this toolbox. And it's helping agents worldwide sell more houses and make their jobs a lot easier and processes much more efficient. And the thing is, it's absolutely free. All you got to do is go to hibandigital.com/toolbox or text the word toolbox to 444-999. That's toolbox 444-999. Do it now. No, that's great. Okay, and so let's talk about, you've been at Coldwell Banker 38 years. Currently, there's a firestorm of recruiting going on. It's just incredible. I talk to brokers, a lot on this show, and I ask them, what is one headache that they wish could be cured more than any other headache? And they say recruiting and retention. As a matter of fact, that's why we at Rebus University, we're building a course now on recruiting and retention. But it's just a lot of companies are very aggressive in their recruiting space. Pretty much just it used to be how do you say frowned upon to some degree, and now that's all gone. Right now, sure. Everybody's getting recruited by everybody. So out in the open. Tell me why, how you've benefited and what your philosophies on staying with the same company for 30 plus years.
Well, I will say that I probably get recruited on a weekly basis, and that's fine.
More than ever before, right?
Always, and very aggressively, and in a lot of different ways. I'll have somebody say, "Oh, come and speak at this," but it's really speaking, it's just kind of whatever. So
really getting to know them and their culture.
So I have
that's a good strategy.
Yeah, I have always been recruited. There are so many different ways to structure commissions and expenses and all of that. But I have stuck with Coldwell Banker through it because for a couple of reasons. Here locally, all 31 years started with Gordon Gundaker, Gundaker was an independent that was purchased by Coldwell Banker. Gordon Gundaker is a small man with a huge heart and very successful, and the kind of guy, I think he's in his 80s now, that every month at our sales rally would go, "Guys and gals, always treat the customer right." And that was his philosophy.
He's like the guy from Jerry Maguire, the mentor, right? From Jerry Maguire.
So he just always rang true to me. This is a big company in this town. We have we probably have almost a 30% market share in the market, and there's about 1,400 agents at Coldwell Banker. But our corporate leadership are good, smart people that do the right thing. That means a lot to me. I feel like I have resources to help me sell property, help me get people out of trouble if they do something bad when they're trying to buy or sell. I just feel like I have a lot of people behind me. I've only had 2 brokers in that time, and they are both smart with great senses of humor. They know their contract inside, outside, upside down, and that means a lot to me. The short answer is give me a for sale sign and a cell phone and just let me sell houses.
Yeah, that's the short answer. But you also said some valid points, which is good for brokers and managers listening to this, which we have more and more actually. They're, and they're coming on more and more as guests, and I'm getting a lot of feedback from them. I think they listen to it and then they use the ideas here in their sales meetings and stuff, which is cute. Sure. So, which is great. I mean, I think it's a great idea. Anyway, so you said a couple of things. First of all, you said they have good senses of humor. which means they're not stodgy, right? Like they're authentic like you, right?
You know what? Buyers and
Creates
sellers
loyalty, right?
and agents are hysterical. I mean, there's so much funny stuff that happens. And at the time, maybe it doesn't seem funny, but to have somebody that can help you keep a little bit of perspective when you're in the weeds is really invaluable, I think.
Okay, perspective when you're in the weeds. That's great. That's good. I like that. And just somebody who isn't bothering you, isn't micromanaging you, but just stepping in and being, Colleen, how you doing? And you're like busy as hell, and they're like, hey, keep perspective. Can't wait to, think about that fish on the hook, whatever. Just kind of, you know what I mean?
I think you've been in my office.
Yeah. And then patting you on the back, giving you a hug, and then rolling out, right? That's it,
Uh-huh.
And then the other thing you said was interesting, which I want to touch on. They know the contract inside and out. Why is that important to you?
Well, because there are so many brokerages now where the broker manages the office, but really isn't managing the agents. And really the agent, if they have problems with a contract, I know from where I sit, sometimes when I have a problem with the other side, I don't have a broker that we can climb a ladder to try and work out a solution or fix a problem.
Because the broker's inexperienced, or because the broker's non-existent, or both?
The broker is running the office, collecting collecting the rents or whatever from the agents, but they aren't really managing.
So they might be training. They might be managing. Like you said, I guess expenses and office type stuff that really like an office
and recruiting and
person. Oh, and recruiting. Oh, yeah, and recruiting. But they don't know. But they don't understand law or.
Sometimes you run into that. Every word in that contract has a nuance to it, and I think if you really understand it, you can muscle through and keep deals together. Right now, I have 100% close rate over the last 60 days. So everything that we've written has closed, and I don't think there's a lot more fallout in the real world when you're writing contracts, I think.
Yeah, nowadays, yes. Absolutely, especially inexperienced agents, right? So
Sure.
You're saying you write them good, you write them solid.
Well, and you write them solid, but then you can just arm wrestle folks all the way through that process to get it to the closing table. So, but yeah, looking at all, when I see it, the way some contracts are written or not written and that sort of thing, and it really isn't that. It's just that if there's a real disagreement on a building inspection, or there's a problem with a loan, to be able to muscle around. I hate to say it, but there are times when I go right past an inexperienced agent to their buyer's lender and sort things out to get something to the closing.
Yeah, sure.
So.
Well, this is a great lesson in how to retain the top agents, right? Because like you, the top agents, they don't want to be bothered with all those other things that we mentioned that a manager, right, or a broker is doing. You don't need all that. You've been in business 31 years. You don't need FSBOs and expired training, right? You don't need, an explanation of the home inspection addendum. What you need is when, something has happened that is totally obscure to you, and you don't, it's never happened before, and you just need someone powerful to come in and give you advice on it. And that's really all you need, that and a pat on the back every once in a while,
Sure, or to have somebody that if for instance, I had somebody that was a buyer, and then they had terminal buyer's remorse, but really didn't have any way out of that contract, but that doesn't mean they're not going to show up, to be able to walk into my broker's office, close the door, sit down, and get on a conference call with that person. My broker is younger than me. I think we probably have about the same knowledge of the contract and everything. But when that client is hearing it not just from me, but from the broker, maybe it carries a little more weight and we can get it resolved. And that's important to me.
Did you terminal buyer's remorse? How many houses did they
they
get scared?
And you know what? They bought it and turned around and sold it 60 days later because they really didn't want it. But guess what? We sold it to them, and then I listed it and sold it when they moved on.
Wow, I'm surprised I didn't use another agent because they were so mad that you made them go through it.
It was surprising all the way along. So
I mean, you got to own it on some level. You got to own it, right? I mean, I think that's good to hear too, because there are people with terminal buyer's remorse, and I love it when agents actually explain buyer's remorse to buyers. They, I've had agents come on the show that say to the scripts to their buyers are, let me tell you what's going to happen next after they write the offer.
Right.
Step one, you're going to get buyer's remorse. And they're like, what? Yeah, you're going to get buyer's remorse. It happens to everybody. You're going to start saying, did we make the right decision? Did we overpay? What about the slight road noise? What about this? What about that? That's natural. It's going to happen. You just got to breathe into it, and then by day 3, it will be gone. Then the next step, we schedule the home inspection, right? I mean, you almost have to set it up that this is.
Oh, absolutely. Managing expectations all day, every day.
That's awesome. Well, this has been great, Colleen. This has been great. I love having people on the show that are solid like you and that know how to do it and do it well. And I appreciate you sharing everything that you have. You've got an incredible profit margin. You've got an incredibly tight team. And I think a lot of teams lose their profitability by having a lot of loosey-goosey agents that have crappy close ratios, and then they end up having to spend more money to get leads because the close ratios are so bad.
And spend more time training another person. Everybody on my team has been an agent for a long, long time. One of my buyer's agents has been in the business 20 years. So he's been with me. He stepped out of the business when the market crashed and came back to me when it came back. So he's been with me 7 years, the other one 5. Caroline's been with me over 10. Peggy's been with me at least 5. I mean, I don't churn and burn, and I see an awful lot of that in this business.
And do you have any interest at all in when you see these other teams, right, with that are large, right, that have much bigger than yours? Do you ever get tempted to grow the team, or are you like, nope, this is how I like it?
I spend more than half of my life in this business and with these people. And I will probably in the spring probably add one more person because I know we'll start squeaking a little bit. But overall, if I can keep my costs down, keep the profits up, I have 4 people with kids in college. I feel like part of my job is to keep this team healthy enough that we get everybody through college, and keep this going.
I mean, and also you're at the $1 million mark is tempting too, right? To be able to, you're almost there where you're netting $1 million. It'd be nice to ring that bell. But at the same time, like you said, if that's going to take adding 4 bad agents, it's not worth it. You know what I mean? It's just not,
I guess over time, and maybe it's just because I'm old, but I kind of feel like quality over quantity is kind of how we're going to ring our bells around this place.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about your free gift. What free gift did you bring to Rockstar Nation today?
I brought my pre-listing presentation, which is really, like I said, setting expectations. There's an awful lot of folks that do that, but there's an awful lot of people that don't have anything that they either drop off or email to people. So it just kind of goes through the process and is really kind of a what to expect on that appointment, because it's scary to have people walk into your house and look in your closets. So it's just a step-by-step of what they can expect on that appointment itself, and a little bit about how we market property. Sometimes I will also include some specific market analysis information so they have a chance to digest that before we get together. In the past, I used to hand deliver that all the time. Now, more and more, we send it by email as a package. And I also include usually a little bit short video to introduce.
Oh, I love that. That's great. That's great. So you used to make it like a two-step listing. First step's
Yeah.
dropping it off. Now you're just emailing it, and that's
Mhm.
fine. And how do you make sure they read it, or do you just let that go to luck?
Pretty much they do, but I'm old school. I use the phone a little bit more than text, and I'll call them and tell them it's coming, and then I'll confirm that appointment the day of the appointment and ask them if they had a chance to look through that, and if they have any questions, we can go over it when we meet.
And I don't know if you can call it old school, but you could also call it effective, right? Like if somebody calls me and says, "Did you read it?" I'm probably going to read it before they get there. But if they text me and say, "Did you read it?" I might not be as, it's interesting.
Well, and I tried to kind of approach it as like I was targeting someone with ADD. It is not overwhelming. I think too much information, they won't read it. So we tried to dumb it down and keep it not dumb, but simple. So.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. All right. Great. Well, that's a good one. And guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that on hibandigital.com/Colleen Lawler, and it's COLLEEN Lawler, LAWLER, hibandigital.com/Colleen Lawler. And I'm also going to put it in the Agent Success Toolbox, which can be found on hibandigital.com/toolbox, or simply texting the word toolbox to 444-999. Colleen, this has been fun. I really appreciate it. And if I'm ever in your neck of the woods, I will definitely look you up, and we'll get together and break some bread as graduates of the 1987 real estate license course.
That sounds like a good plan.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Estate Rockstars. If this free content is giving you a ton of value, I want to ask a small favor in return. I need you to pull out your pointing finger and hit the subscribe button. Yes, hit subscribe, please. The more subscribers that we get on Real Estate Rockstars, the better guests are attracted to the shows. We'll get more guests from the top companies, from the top teams, and even more celebrity guests like Robert Kiyosaki and Barbara Corcoran. Also, if you're not a member of our free Facebook group, go to Real Estate Rockstars Radio right on Facebook and join the conversation. I'm on there myself on FaceTime Lives, and we have a lot of communications and questions about the show, and I'd love to see you there. And it's free. People ask me all the time, where am I on social media? I'm real easy to find. Just type in my name. My IG is I am Pat Hyben. It is blowing up on Instagram, adding tons of subscribers, and I'm on there probably twice a day. So definitely follow me on Instagram, as well as everywhere else. Thanks again for listening, and keep rocking.